Hey everybody, welcome to another video. It's David over here, and I thought I would send out a video. This weekend is Salute, so needless to say we've seen a lot of Salute videos from the UK. I enjoyed watching Big Lee's photo sort of survey of what he saw, or photo report, and then of course Terry Crick did a really nice walk around video. It's always interesting to see what's going on over there. We had our very own Salute. In fact, we are having our very own Salute here in British Columbia. I'm not in British Columbia, I'm in Washington, but nonetheless in the Pacific Northwest. Trumpeter Salute, which is running over the weekend from Friday, Saturday through to tomorrow, which is Sunday, at the Monza Centre in Burnaby in British Columbia. It's near Vancouver. So this was my first salute uh, on any continent. So yeah, I don't know where the naming comes from for this. I don't know if it's very much a sort of purposeful naming decision, but it is what it is. Anyway, I went today. I won't be visiting tomorrow. I have way too many things to do at home. I had some work travel this week that wasn't planned. That happened, so that kind of cut into my time working for the Mem Sahib. So tomorrow I am working in the garden for her. I managed to get some done this afternoon already and this evening. Worked till about 8 o'clock, sun was up, so I was outside. So I managed to go spend the morning and a little bit of the afternoon hanging out at the Salute convention. So yeah, it was really fun. A smaller convention, nothing like Salute in the UK, from what I can gather. But you get this handy little booklet. It was 20 Canadian dollars to get in, which is, I don't know, like 14 US. And the theme was Canada's Wars. I didn't see much of that happening, to be honest. Theme-wise, it seemed like it was basically people running what they wanted to. There's some nice set of instructions about what you got to do and what you're not got to do. Then my friend Francis had his store there, Imperial Hobbies, had a little stall, and needless to say, I bought some stuff. But I'll show you all that in a bit. But very different from the UK. My experience with wargaming shows have been typically that they are much more like about selling stuff, they're more vendor heavy. This is much more of a participation thing. So the White Rock Gamers ran a few games. Friends of mine, a club I play at. So yeah, they ran some. There was a couple of tournaments here, Warhammer 40,000 and Saga, neither of which I play. And then there were some sort of miniature games, board games being run. It was pretty good. Again, the quality of the tables looked great and all. Again, being participation games, it's a very different type of environment. Last year, 2 years ago rather, when I was at Warfare in Farnborough, I think one of the frustrations I had was you see these really nice tables, beautifully painted miniatures, and these guys playing a game, and they just play a game, and you stand there like a lemon, and there's no sense of engagement. Nobody's trying to talk to you. It's not like there's two people playing and then they have like a third person like answering questions, explaining what they're doing or what rule set they're using or anything. It's very much you watch two people play and they have a great time and you're just there watching, and it's a bit weird. That's not true for all of the games, of course. Some of the games, there was a really cool Luxembourg game at Warfare that I really liked, and the chap who was running the show, he wasn't playing, he wasn't pushing miniatures around, but you know, he had a little booklet knocked up and he was very enthusiastic about his topic, and it was actually really engaging just as an activity to talk to him and get insight into what his idea was behind the whole thing. Nonetheless, that was the today's Salute. So I made the arduous trip across the border to Canada, and I went and hung out with my friends for the day. Well worth it. If you are ever in the region at this time of year and the show's on, I would highly recommend coming along. Bring and Buy was actually really good. So again, no complaints there from me. So enough about Salute then. So that was Trumpeter Salute. So it's run by the Trumpeter Club. And then here's some bits and pieces I bought. A while back I actually purchased this book, Wargaming 19th Century Europe 1815 to 1878 by Neil Thomas. This purchase stemmed from a conversation I'd had with a friend at the club. We were discussing game design, and he was saying that he'd read this book and he thought that the opening part of it, the sort of theory behind all of it, the opening section, talking about the history but also about game design in general, was really insightful for him. He is a person who writes game rule sets, and so I'd heard some good things. I know Paul Ward uses these rules for his Crimea games. That's my Takeshi's Tea House really good website, really great YouTube channel. He plays with these rules, and so I was curious about them. So I picked them up, got them for a really good price on Amazon with a gift card that I'd been given, and I thought I'll check them out. And I absolutely demolished the opening sections of this book. I got through to the rules section. I didn't go too heavily into the rules piece because that's not really why I bought it. What I really wanted was the discussion that he has about rule sets, and I thought this was a really good book for that. I'm sure that Neil Thomas has written other books that are that have similar sections, and I'd quite like to read that. But anyway, just want to say I picked this up. I really liked what I've read through so far, which is about a third of the book. After that, it goes into the rule set, and then it goes into a bunch of like scenarios. I'm not sure if I'll ever use his rules, but there's some things that he talks about which I find really interesting. One of his things that I really like is his notion of a line unit, or sorry, of line formation, is really interesting. So he makes units out of 4 bases essentially, and what you do is you put 2 ranks of 2 bases. So a line is more like a square if you want to think about it like that, right? So it has much more kind of squat, and then columns are sort of single, 4 ranks of 1 base. So units are made up of 4 bases, and they can either be open order, loose order, or close order, which is really interesting. And his thought there is that the shape of units was actually more squarish, more squat like that, and deeper, because you would have the line of the sort of what we think of as the lines or the ranks, but in front of that you would have like a cloud of skirmishers, so to speak, who kind of do the engagement fighting. Now, many rule sets will actually separate those off as 2 separate things, tactically separate units. But I think his point is that actually that's how they functioned. They functioned in tandem with each other. So the idea that we split them off from each other into discrete units is perhaps wrong. It got me thinking about my Franco-Prussian War project, and I've decided I'm going to stick with the 3 bases that I'm using currently, but I'm going to actually add a line of bases at the front and put some skirmishing figures on that, so that nominally there will be 6 bases, but in real terms there's still 3, right? But for like aesthetic reasons, we'll have that nice little, we'll basically double the depth of the bases to up to 50 mil, and we'll have that skirmish cloud at the front. And I think then if the units actually close with each other and get within combat, you would basically bump the skirmish base to the back, and you'd essentially flip them over like that to indicate that a unit's in close combat or something like that. I think it'll look pretty cool. So that was just a thought that I'd had based upon reading this book. Yeah, like I said, the theory craft, or the theory portion of this book, I found very interesting, and then it has informed some of the playtesting I've been doing for an upcoming set of Ancients rules, which hopefully we'll be releasing next year. I'm not writing them, I'm just involved in the playtesting, but it's interesting having read this. Now that we're playing that rule set, every time we get to we're asking ourselves a set of questions, I think, which are prompted by this rule set. So that's really cool. So I picked this up from Amazon. Handy dandy book. A while back I said I'm very much a champion of the library. In cases like this, and I did say this during my video, so I will defend myself with it. In cases like this, I will purchase the book, and part of that is to do that I want the author to get his little kickback. I know he's not getting much out of it, but I want him to know that I purchased his book. This is the exception for me. Like, I will, these books I will buy, because I want to make sure that Neil Thomas knows that people are reading his book, right? I don't think there's a way for him to measure library book readership, so to speak. So I hope that by purchasing his book, I'm supporting him and his efforts. I don't know about the rest of his rule set, so you might disagree and think he's rubbish. That's fine. I still think it's very interesting what he's saying about rules creation. Right, next one is this set of rules called Patriots and Loyalists. It's by Scott Holder, assisted by Artie Conliffe of Shako fame. It's Rules for the American Revolution. It also has a French and Indian War component as well. I purchased this today at Salute. I got it for a decent price in Canadian dollars. It's a very old book. As you can see, I mean, basically prefigures internet websites on company pages. I think at the back here it's got Essex, but US Essex, and it doesn't even list a website, so that gives you a sense of how old this is. Nonetheless, the reason I purchased this was I had a flick through it, and one of the things I'm in the hunt for currently is a good set of American War of Independence rules. There are several options. Obviously, black powder is an option, especially since black powder has a AWI supplement, which by all accounts is very good. The other thing is there's obviously Warfare in the Age of Reason, which was written very much for the 7 Years' War, and the club that I play at, they played those rules many years ago, and they said whilst most of it was good, there was some funny business with cavalry and stuff, and it got a bit bogged down in itself, which put me off. Nonetheless, we'll try that out, and then also there's Principles of War 18th century rules, which again I like Principles of War. It's not for everyone, but I like the sort of blind movement until contact is made. That's something I actually like. I like the fact that it has, you know, or potentially there you can have rules for unknown terrain, so again terrain blind, so to speak. And I like the way that the armyless construction works, in that you don't purchase units individually for points necessarily, but you're kind of buying brigades and you're buying divisions that dial into corps. And that's just sort of, I've said this before on this channel, but that's kind of where I like to be with war games rules. I don't really care for point systems as such, but I do like there being a structure. The sort of a la carte, pick what you want and throw it all together, doesn't really work for me. Anyway, I picked these up because I figured there might be something useful in here. I think in the end what's going to end up happening is I'm going to find a rule set that kind of does 80% or 75% of what I want, and then I will just toolbox my way, use it as a toolbox and add bits and pieces in here and there. But one of the really nice things about this, which I was quite impressed with, is there's this section in the front which talks about how units are composed. And again, there's no point system per se attached to these, but it'll be like Continental Line have four stands, 1 light infantry, 1 command, in 6 total. And then you have British Line, 4 line stands, 1 light infantry stand, 1 grenadier stand, and a command stand, up to 7 stands. Now, we know that typically in this period or in this conflict, like light infantry companies and grenadier companies would be split off. So each stand here represents a company, right? And then the command is like the sort of brain of the whole outfit, the command element. So you end up with, in real terms for the Continentals, you end up with 5 stands per battalion, if you want to put it in those terms. And for the British Line, you also end up with 5 stands. And they've got this handy little picture here. You can see where they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stands. This is for Continental Line Battalion. Command at the front, and then they've got the light infantry here. But of course, because the light infantry will typically converge into a single light infantry battalion, you really need 5 stands. One of the things, so this is handy for things like the Queen's Rangers, where you had these really weird combined arms units. I hazard to use the word regiments, but you know what I mean. Like, you know, you'd have the actual foot, horse, and gun all included as a sort of discrete unit. Lee's Legion was the same, I think, that kind of thing. So that's really cool. And there's this handy dandy table. There's a few scenarios at the back of the book which give you specifics on how many stands you need for everything, and they seem to be scaled based on numbers that were at the battles. One thing I did find bizarre, though, is there's this emphasis on the number of stands as constituting units, right? So we'll use our British Line example here and say, okay, well, or the Continentals. Let's say we take out the Grenadiers and the Light Infantry, we end up with 5 stands. But all the examples they show you of units are 4 stands, right? And you see that here with Wheeling, 3 stands. But the problem is, this game is not going to have units of 3 stands wide, because your average line unit's going to be like anything between 5 to 7 wide if it hasn't broken out as grenadiers or anything like that. Do you see what I'm saying? So there's a sort of method or geometric fallacy here, which is that you're looking at pictures that show units that look kind of like normal wargaming units. 3 wide is typical. That kind of looks correct. That's what, you know, Principles of War uses. Maybe 4 wide, like Warfare in the Age of Reason. But this looks fine on a page now. But when you actually use the correct number of stands, it's going to be about yay long. And then I wonder if then at that point the stands become a bit too wide, you know. So I'm a bit kind of unsure about the basing sort of style for this game, and then how that has translated into examples of like formation changes, because this is not going to reflect most units. Anyway, so that's just a thought. Other than that, I mean, you can tell it's a very much a product of its time. There's no pictures or anything in terms of like painted miniatures or anything. It's black and white, but it does have some good orders of battle, and you can see here as an example. So this is this Freeman Farm? No, Guildford Courthouse, and it'll give you like Arnold's Brigade, and it tells you all the units he had, and that's quite handy. The number of stands is obviously handy. Personally, I would just make my units. I guess I would follow the Black Powder style of doing things, or any other game really, where you just say these 4 stands or these 3 stands or whatever. 24 men makes up a unit, a battalion, let's say, with grenadiers and light companies being separate from that. So that would cover your actual center companies, right? Plus command. But anyway, so that's that. Picked it up. Yeah, nice to have. As I said, add it to the toolbox. No rule set is perfect, and so with that said, I think it behooves us as wargamers to find kind of what fits us best and then tinker with it until we are happy. So that's the paperwork stuff done. Then frequent viewers will know that I'm not somebody who purchases a lot of miniatures recently. I have a lot to paint, as I've said many times, and I've shown you my Foot of Lead Mountain videos. But today I picked something up at the Bring and Buy, which I was not expecting to find, which is an Inquisitor figure. I think these are 52mm scale miniatures. They are awesome. They're quite rare. They're difficult to find. This is still in its box and unassembled. And it is Inquisitor 52 or 54mm or whatever it is. And it's the Barbaretta plus a Cyber Mastiff. I don't particularly care for the game. I don't own the rulebook anymore. But I just love these larger scale figures. So I picked it up. It was $9 Canadian. It was a steal, and you know, it's one of those things I've always wanted to paint Inquisitor stuff. It just it appeals to me, I guess. So I picked it up on a whim. The other thing that happened is there was a sale recently at my friend Francis's store, Imperial Hobbies in Canada, and I picked up a little baggie here that was on discount. This is Old Glory 15's Classical Greek Command. I have a 15mm Classical Greek Army from Essex, but the command figures are pretty bland. They're kind of just very generic looking. It's just a dude on a horse who looks a bit different from the rest of the guys. So I picked this pack up because I figured I could always use some interesting little standards and musicians and stuff just to make things a bit more interesting. And I paid $9 Canadian for this bag. It was half price reduced. You know, why not? It was a bit of an impulse purchase, along with this, which I've been talking about the Crimea for a while, and this is a British Line infantry regiment for the Crimea. However, I don't think it's a line regiment in the truest sense, because everyone has swallows' nests on their shoulders. You can see here, hang on, let me hold the box steady. Maybe I'm blind or maybe I'm misseeing it, but those look like swallows' nests, because in the pictures, actually no, maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, it looks like some of them have swallows' nests and some of them don't. But when I look at the figures themselves, when I popped them out of the box just to have a gander, I could swear that they all had swallows' nests. So let's zoom back out again, because they all kind of have the same looking shoulders. Let's pull that out. All right. No, they just have chunky shoulders. They're not swallows' nests, but they are like epaulets almost, which to my mind are like what swallows' nests look like. But I guess maybe my eye is all wrong. If anybody knows better than I do, please do let me know. But yeah, yeah, they've got sort of a, let me see here. They've got kind of like a little tufty shoulder board type thing. I don't know if it counts as a swallow's nest. Anyway, they all look the same. They weren't. I didn't notice any of them actually having a pronounced swallow's nest for like light company or grenadiers, flanker companies, I guess we call them, right? Nonetheless, picked these up. I got them for a really good price. That's why I got them. And I am very much of the if it's a bargain, buy it now school, which is because if you don't, you'll regret it later when the price goes up. And you know, worst case scenario, if you don't want to use them, you can always sell them on, and then somebody else will benefit from your low price purchase, right? So I picked these up. I don't think I would go with the Warlord miniatures. Generally, they're not terrible, but there's such a lack of variety in the range. The range is incredibly narrow, and I might add to that. My taste is for the Great Wars miniatures ones myself, but I picked it up because it was a deal. And again, as long as you don't mix the miniatures with other rangers, or if you do with rangers that are compatible, you'll be fine. So I picked them up and just figured, you know, might as well. It was a good price. Just get it done. You know, when I get around to doing something with these, then we'll have a closer look at the miniatures inside the box. But for now, I picked them up because they were a good price. And now I'm gonna get some more stuff that I purchased because I've been a very naughty boy. All right, so I've had to pack these out so you can actually see what they are. But this is Age of Reason miniatures, which I think are Old Glory. Yeah, Old Glory. I got these for 17 Canadian. This is again from Imperial Hobbies. I bought these a while ago. You can see they've got a serious case of noodle musket. Very bent, just because of the way they were packed, and they were in bags and they got a bit kind of mushed up. So yeah, they're interesting sculpts. They're Rangers for the French and Indian War, which is, again, given that I live in North America, sort of apropos, I guess. Always something I've wanted to do. Probably want to play it in a skirmish game rather than in a rank and file type job. It's more suited to that, I think. But yeah, various poses, quite a lot of miniatures for the price. Now, they're not all great sculpts, I will say that. I'll kind of highlight a few that I find a bit bizarre. The command figure here with his little silly knife strikes me as particularly weird. I think a cool hatchet or something would have been better, but yeah, he's got this ridiculous little dagger or dirk or whatever. He looks a bit silly, but there you go. But yeah, I mean, he'll do for a leader character, right? And there's two of those. He's got the sort of turned up cap style. Let me hold him up and you can maybe get a good look. Hang on. If I put my hand like so, maybe you can get a better sense. So he's sort of gesturing like this with a turned up cap, peak or whatever. And yeah, I mean, for the most part, they have sort of bonnets, which are cool, very in period. There are a few with the sort of the flippy cappy type design, turned up cap. And there's even a chap just wearing a sort of flat, like a floppy hat, which again is very appropriate. Not all the sculpts are great. The ones that tend to be more animated look a bit ridiculous. I don't know. They seem to be a bit kind of. The animation seems a bit awkward to my eye, but maybe that's just me. Maybe it's the way the bodies are twisted or whatever. And then my least favorite sculpt is this one, which is this guy here with a. He's got a bonnet on, but then he's got this. He's got his bag draped over the top of his head. And I mean, there's no way that that's functionally useful. I mean, come on, really? You just see that flopping off your noggin as soon as you start moving, right? So it's just a really bizarre sculpt. I don't know if you're seeing what I'm seeing, or if you agree or disagree. I don't know, but it just looks a bit silly to me, you know. I'm sure that people did carry their bags that way, but it doesn't really work for me. I'm not going to lie. This guy's got the sort of Indian style gaiters, the sort of leggings, which are really cool. Awkward positioning though, because he's sort of leaning back with his musket pointing up. Sort of, I don't know, just a really awkward positioning. I think this is probably my favourite one of the lot. Is the sort of kneeling guy with his kit, and he looks pretty reasonable. It's a nice pose, you know. Anyway. So I got those really cheap, again, under the dictum of, even if I don't end up using them, if this is something that goes nowhere, I could always sell them on to somebody who needs them at a good price, and I'm not out of pocket. But if I hadn't bought them, or if I think later down the line, oh, wouldn't it be fun to do muskets and tomahawks, well, now I have some Rangers. Now, are they the best figures on the planet? Absolutely not. Do they need to be the best figures on the planet? No, they don't. They just need to paint up quick, which these ones I think will do. There's not too much detail on them. They're also, I wouldn't be too precious about them because they're not such fine figures that I feel like I'd be doing them an injustice by not painting them nicely. So I got these, and then I'll show you the last purchase now. Alright, last and certainly not least, I picked up a bag of American War of Independence Continentals. Now I have some Perry Continentals already, but again I got these really cheap. I got them for $19 Canadian, which is a really good price. Let's see how many we got here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 14, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 24 figures. And there are 5 sort of hunting shirt rifleman types because they don't have bayonets fixed. So these would kind of be your skirmishy light infantry types that we discussed earlier. That would be split off from the main body of troops. And then the rest are bayonet armed with round hats and continental uniforms. These fellas have some feathers in their hats by the look of it. Well, some of them do at any rate. So yeah, I picked these up again because the price was right. I will definitely be doing some AWI stuff, so that's definitely a project that's going to happen. There's you get a commander with a sort of, I don't know if you can see that, but he's got a sort of upturned hat, nice casual look. Then you also get a sort of this chap who is, I think, an NCO with a spontoon. And you can see here that the spontoon actually broke off. It's made of white metal, so it's kind of a bit flimsy, and it was all bent into a noodle. And as I straightened it out, it was still fine, and then it just snapped at some point. So what I'll probably end up doing is, and you can see the spontoon head is there. What I'll probably end up doing is cutting this off and then drilling out and putting in an actual piece of steel rod, and then trying to graft that steel rod with this spontoon head on the top. We'll see how we get on with that. This is the standard bearer. He's got a little drilled out area there for his holes for his hands. And again, he's got a white metal standard or flagpole, but it's very soft white metal, so it's just way too flimsy. So that's going to be replaced as well. Again, I can chop the head off there and just stick that onto the steel with a very shallow little drilled hole, and then a drummer. So again, so this is essentially a unit of, we said there were 24 figures. In real terms, it's 20 or 19 rather, center companies, let's call it that, and then 5 skirmishy types, which I can use as some separate elements to sit in front to skirmish ahead of the main group. These are from the Battle Honours miniatures. They are from 19th Century Miniatures, which is Old Glory 15s. I bought some of their 15mm Romans. They are really nice. Not sure about this Battle Honours lot. We'll see how we go, see how they paint up. That'll determine what we do with them, but they may be the only Battle Honours that we end up having in the army, because I am very much a fan of the Perry figures. And the nice thing about the Perrys is with the plastic range, you get some of these rifleman types that you see at the bottom here in their hunting shirts, and then they do some metals as well. So I'm not sure how these will fit in with the Perrys. We'll see that when they're painted up, because that's usually a better indicator than bare metal. Because it's not just about size, right? It's also about style, and about the general sort of tone of the figures. Like if they have ludicrous poses next to the more, I would say, realistic and kind of more subdued Perry miniatures, they might just look too cartoonish, once they're painted up. But we'll see how that looks once it's done. So anyway, that's everything I've purchased. I've broken my cardinal rule, which is don't buy more stuff. But I do have a bunch of things I'm going to eBay soon. I will say that missed opportunity with the bring and buy today. I really could have gotten rid of a lot of stuff, I feel, had I taken it down there. But so I guess eBay is my only avenue right now. The thing that puts me off eBay is they charge something like 13.5% of the final selling fee they take for themselves, which I find a bit rich. Not really, doesn't really make it worth your while as a seller at this point. If you're taking that much of a hit on the sale price, you kind of have to hope that you get a decent sale price in the first instance, so you're not really losing money. Not that we do this for the money, obviously. When we sell stuff on, we accept there's a degree of loss involved, but it just seems a bit cheeky that they take 13.5% of whatever it is you make in the end. I sort of miss the days of when you would pay an insertion fee and then you would pay a much lower rate on the sale itself. It just felt a bit better, really. I mean, I know you're using their platform, but what are they really doing for you? They're not promoting your sale or anything like that. You've got to pay for that. So, yeah. Anyway, so that's all the purchases and that have come into the house in the last while. Hopefully, there won't be any more purchases. Again, my main goal is not to buy more stuff. It's to actually paint what I have. But every now and then a deal comes along and you just feel that you need to snap it up while you can. Yeah, that's exactly what I did. So I have lots of work to do, lots of painting to get done. I hope you're having a wonderful weekend. For those who got to go to Salute, jolly good for you. Glad you got to go. For everyone else who didn't get to go, I'm sure you're going to enjoy watching the coverage provided by our friends on YouTube of the UK version of Salute. If you are in the Pacific Northwest, I would highly recommend coming to Salute next year when it's on in Burnaby, British Columbia. If you do come along, let us know, and be more than happy to have you around for a cup of tea, or take you out for a beer or something. You're always welcome. Please do let us know if you're going to come. Don't be a stranger. We can even play a game if you like. We'll sort something out. So yeah, anyway, I'm just going to wrap it up there. Have a good one, and talk to you soon.